Hello again, Blended Family Nation. Okay. All right, we are back. We're back. Richard Ramos today, the parent whisperer. Today is one you're not only going to want to listen to because it's a boom.
Always a pleasure to be with you and the Blended Family Nation. Hopefully that we are building some bridges.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, folks, we just want to thank you because people are liking and following and sharing and growing in all areas. We're seeing growth, and we got some new and exciting podcasts or interviews coming up on the legal end and other professionals. So just stay tuned for those. But today we're going to talk about, I'll take a breath, and then this will jump out at you. If you're watching right now, have you ever, as a mom, have you ever heard those words or seen that face? You're not my mom. I don't have to listen to you. You're not my mom. Or dad. Dad, have you ever heard? You're not my dad. The classic. It's happened to me, and we're going to dive deep because we're not just always talking about this is about the parenting side, but we also 360 degrees around the challenges. And this is one where we can help our children with some reflective, calm, how-to moments. So Richard, all across America, probably today, and who knows, maybe a million times this week, the words.
Yeah, I think all of us know in blended families that is a common theme, a common thing that we have to deal with. And it's hurtful. It's painful oftentimes. It depends on when it's said. It might be said right at the get-go, or it might be down the road. But it's certainly, on one hand, it's understandable that a young boy or a young girl or a young man, if they're teenagers, young woman, that they feel that way, because that in fact is true. As a blended family, I know we don't like to use the word step parent, step mom, or stepdad, but that is what it is. We're not the biological parent. And so that's one way that a child can kind of get back at us, in a sense of maybe not liking the situation that they found themselves in, because we always have to remember they didn't ask for it. They probably are not happy about it. They're not comfortable in it. But when that phrase, "You're not my mom," or "Don't tell me what to do, you're not my dad," when that usually is heard, usually it's around a discipline type of issue.
Yeah, isn't that so true? And research shows that the age of between like 10 and 14 is the hardest time for a transition. You said it on the last program. That's why, folks, you always want to go back and listen to the previous programs that were on the Parent Whisperer that we're doing with Richard, because you said it today, and back then they didn't choose this situation. No child comes into the world and at age 5 says, I hope my mom and dad get a divorce, or I hope that my family breaks up, because that solid foundation, or the roles of mom, dad, I'm the child, gets broken. But you've in the Parents on a Mission book, and in the speaking you do, obviously it's a common question. So there's a mom or a dad out there, and they're thinking, help me understand this, Richard. Help me understand these different roles of what's going on. So maybe you can share a little bit about that.
Yeah, to be fair, first, let's be fair. There are some, maybe it's rare, situations where a parent comes into a family or blended family, and it works out, and the kids are happy, and they're happy for their mom that found a good man. They're happy for their dad that found a good woman. And so let's acknowledge
Yeah.
that does happen. And the other thing, when children are very little, like my first step parent experience, my son was only 2 years old. And so, it's a lot easier in the transition for them because they don't understand what's going on. But I just wanted to say that. But as far as this situation, in my book, The Art of Stepparenting, How to Blend Families Without Tearing Them Apart, I address this in a chapter that I call the Blended Family Triangle, because oftentimes that's what ends up happening. when that situation occurs, a triangle is simply a third person or a third thing. Could be, I don't know, could be sports, could be gambling that's interfering with the adult relationship.
Yeah,
Both
something out there that's spinning
okay,
around that's could be toxic, it could just be a distraction, and
in this case, it's the child. Now there's a situation like we said, the child's don't try and tell me what to do. So I just want to read a couple of examples that I have in here about scenarios that come up. Here's one. This is in my book, The Blended Family Triangle, in that chapter. The son speaks to his mother in a manner the stepdad perceives as disrespectful. Wanting to protect and support his wife, the stepdad steps in to correct the stepson for his behavior. In response, the son protests, arguing that the stepdad is not my father, he's telling his mother, and therefore has no right to discipline him. The mother, here's the key here, siding with her son, creates tension in the marriage and reshapes the family triangle, leaving the stepdad in the outside role. So what that means is you have A and B relationship, that's husband, wife, and they're on the inside role, and the son is on the outside role because they're married and they're priority in that relationship. But now the son is complaining something and saying, I don't want him telling me what to do. And when the mother sides with the son, now the father is on the outside and the mother and the son are on the inside part of the relationship. So that's what it's meant by a triangle. And that could happen. Let me give you a different scenario. The stepson observes that I'm sorry to use the word step, but again, in this
yeah,
context, it
we're
helps to
just
understand.
defining the roles.
The stepdad observes that his wife is overly critical and harsh toward her son. Having experienced a similar upbringing with his own mother, he empathizes with his stepson and decides to share his own experiences of estrangement from his mother as a result of similar treatment. However, the wife reacts with anger, feels offended, and argues with him. The stepdad, feeling protective of his stepson, takes the boy's side, which reshapes the family triangle, leaving the mother as the new outsider. So you can see how just that, you're not my dad, you're not my mom, and taking sides one way or the other, which is not the answer. We can talk about how do you deal with that. That's not the right answer, but it causes tension because of some relational issue. The first one was, don't tell me anything. You're not my dad. The second one was, honey, maybe you shouldn't talk to your son that way because I experienced that with my mom and it was not good. And now she gets mad. The stepfather joins with the stepson, but now the mother's on the outside. So you can see that causes a lot of tension.
Yeah. Oh, that's so powerful. And, people watching right now, folks, we're talking about Richard Ramos, the parent whisperer. I like to say that, the parent whisperer. And Richard, and I know, having worked with thousands of people in these scenarios, there's going to be a mom or a dad out there that are mad at you and I right now, or contradicting you and I, or there are people that say, a dad or a mom said, my kids come first no matter what. And there are people that say, we don't have these problems. I don't know what those guys are talking about. We don't have these problems. But sooner or later, like you said, in rare cases, there are wonderful situations and wonderful parents and wonderful co-parent situations, and you don't have things. But folks, what we've seen, sadly, the failure rate in step families is 63% in 7 years. That's a sad percentage, and so what we're trying to do is cut that rate because these things come up. And Richard, you said a key point, and it will be controversial that I say this, but that husband-wife, the solidity, or that partnership, that covenant or a partnership that they should have, the children should kind of understand or at least see that they're solid together. Now, again, there's going to be a mom or a dad. Those guys, I don't believe in that. But in all the studies and the research and just living it, I think when a child wants to be loved. Either way, they want to be loved by their biological, and they want to just be loved and accepted by the non-biological. And as you said, when children they get wounded, especially if they're then that 10 to teenage age where you got hormones or things that are raging and causing emotional issues. But what happens is if they can chip away, it's kind of like, in a war, Russia and Ukraine is going on right now, and Russia tries to knock away at certain parts of the territory, and then they'll come over here, and sooner or later, they're trying to take over. And I think what you're trying to say is describe that's why people should get the book, The Art of Stepparenting, or bigger than that, Parents on a Mission, that they can get folks. You see how to get that right now. Go to Richard's website and take a look at that because it's incredible value. But there's going to be people that disagree or don't understand or say that doesn't happen in our family, but it's a pretty common thing. So I ask you people that don't agree, have empathy that we have heard how common it is.
No, 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 you're right on point, and let me say a couple of things about that. Number 1, it's fine to disagree, we have to learn how to agree to disagree in an agreeable manner. So, if you have a different point of view, that's fine. That what matters is, your happiness and, your joy that you're experiencing in your own family. But the second thing I would say a lot of times that parents forget when we say that in the blended family, well, my kids are priority. They're always going to be priority. What we're forgetting there is that our kids grow up and leave. And then what do you have? If you've put all your effort and priority, and this could be over years, into your children, nothing wrong with that as long as you're still maintaining the romance in your relationship with the person that you said I do forever until death do us part. We seem to forget that in my book. I believe it's in the no voice, no choice, meaning that kids oftentimes don't have a choice because they're voice is not heard. So the story is that a young woman was madly in love with a young man, but there was only one issue was that he had a 2-year-old daughter, which she was not happy about, but she just figured, oh, it'll all work out. They wanted to buy a new home, so they worked very hard. They were able to purchase the home. They moved in together, and she was miserable because she began to resent the fact that he had always told her, okay, but my daughter comes first. And he told her that from the very beginning. And then they got married, bought the home, and my daughter comes first. My daughter comes first. She was miserable. She was unhappy. And she was writing, asking for help on an internet, one of those things where people talk to each other and give advice. So her issue was, I regret getting married to a man with a daughter, and now I'm stuck because I cannot afford to pay this mortgage by myself. And she said, becoming a step parent has ruined my life.
Hmm.
That's a tough story, but it's a reality. And I just remind us, if we're going to put our children first, what about the romance and the relationship when our children get older and they leave?
Yeah. Yeah. That's the truth. And as a husband and wife, that relationship, sometimes you may have to upfront and outfront set some ground rules of how this is gonna come up. That's why they wanna watch this, is they may say, "Well, we've never experienced what they're talking about, so who are these guys?" But be prepared because you never know. There are families, everything's going good. It's kinda just like marriages have honeymoons. Sometimes blended families have honeymoons. Everything's going good, and then something comes up, or as you said, the triangle, that third third party could be the former spouse that reaches in because there's something they're upset about. All of a sudden, things flip from good to what happened. So as a husband and wife, front and out front, have conversations. And as big as that, when you sense that families, when you sense there's tension in the family, we talk about blended family huddles. And I know, Richard, you and I have talked about this with folks, is get together, even if it's 21 minutes, but do something that's fun. Go on a walk, get a campfire, a fire pit, do something that, and then make it fun. And when you join as a member of USABFA, you write us, we'll send you the blended family blueprint. But my point is, set some ground rules. It's okay to have, just as most children are in sports or they have activities, there are rules for those activities, right? It's okay to have at your house, hey, these are our rules. One could be we don't name call. You don't get to name call at school or you get in trouble. If a child, mom, or stepdad hears those, you're not my whatever it is, it's important that they forgive, that they don't retaliate with anger, but that causes then maybe to set some family house rules fair because it's okay to say, hey, we're in a situation that's not perfect, so we want to respect each other, care about each other, support each other, just as if we were on a sports team. We're teammates.
Yeah, that's right, and the reason that we're talking about this is not to hurt anybody's feelings or shame anybody or blame anybody. It's just the reality of building a blended family. It's a common occurrence. We're simply trying to give some input. What I have been talking about in Parents on a Mission, because this happens a lot. Number one is to make clear to our children that we are not trying to replace their biological parent. I'm not trying to be your biological parent. I'm simply here to be a resource to you, to love you, to support you. And that's my role. And I understand that you're having a hard time with it. That's number one. Number two, in order to do that, and this is the main thing that we talk about in Parents on a Mission, in order for me to have that kind of response, because otherwise I'm just going to react and get mad and get in an argument and say, I don't want to deal with your kids. You know what? You deal with them. And that's not good either.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the other thing that happens is to be always working on my emotional maturity so that I can respond in a mature way to something like that and not react in an immature way when I hear something like, I don't want you telling me you're not my dad. Or if my wife says, I don't want you talking to my children or disciplining them. That is going to require a lot of emotional maturity to be able to have a mature response, the patience and the humility to deal with it. And the third thing is to be consistent. Show consistency that, hey, I'm not trying to be your dad, but I do care about you. And be consistent in that care and showing the unconditional love, the respect for mom, the respect for the boundary. But I'm not a doormat. I'm not here to be run over. I'm here as a parent, step parent role, and I understand the boundaries, and then just go from there. But the key is to be consistent in showing genuine care.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. A key thing you talked about there was kind of boundaries, that a husband and wife should talk about boundaries for how they're gonna parent, and as you said, also, let the children know that, "Hey, I'm not your dad. Your dad's a fine man. I could never replace your dad or mom. I can't replace your mom." Sometimes there are some extreme examples where there may be the other parent is not as great as we'd like to be, but for 90%, that's your dad. You should love him, and I respect him because he brought you into this world. I'm here to care for you, cheer you on, coach you and mentor in areas where I can, but your dad is your dad or your mom is your mom. And to have, the term rules is always tough. So we call them boundaries or bumpers. Like, what would you go bowling in the bowling alley and they put those bumpers on the side? Kind of helps keep the ball in the lane without going into the gutter. And I think that's what we're trying to say because this whole blended family thing is a gradual approach. It's kind of like it's a marathon. You wanna look at your family as a marathon, you want it to last forever, and hopefully we always learn from our previous relationships where we failed and make it better in this one. But as a marathon, you just don't go run a marathon day 1. You run 2 miles for a week, and then you run maybe 5 miles, and so as parenting, it kinda has to be a gradual thing, but I'll tell you, that's a home run you mentioned about that triangle, Richard, and in your book, The Art of Stepparenting, because it usually is because basically in children wanna just be loved, and they wanna try to give love, and they're taking baby steps, whatever their age, baby steps into this new relationship in the home, as are parents, and it's usually something that out of the blue sparks something that causes emotion, but
That's
we just try to encourage, be steady, um, watch your emotions. Folks, you're listening to The Parent Whisperer with Richard Ramos. I'm Dan Snell and USABFA. And today we're talking about one of the most explosive things that can happen that you can hear as a parent, or even the emotion when a child says there's something got to be so ready to burst when a child says it. And we'll be talking about this topic more. And in the upcoming weeks, we're actually going to have some evening live interactive where you can ask questions and you can challenge us or tell us what your thoughts are. And that's a part of what we're doing in the times ahead. So, Richard, I don't know, anything else to add on this explosive topic, but ever so common?
I would just want very quickly, last point is in a triangle, you never try to take responsibility for the relationship where the problem is at. For example, if my wife is having a problem with my kids, or she's having a problem with her kids, my role is not to try to fix that. My role is to maintain my relationship with her kids, my relationship with her, and she has to work that out between her and her kids or my kids, whatever it is. So in a triangle, don't get triangulated. And the way that happens is you start taking responsibility for the problems and you're trying to fix it, and that will stress you out and burn you out. Don't do that. Just maintain your relationship with both parties.
Folks, you've been listening to the parent whisperer, Richard Ramos. We'll be back each and every week with more topics. This one was exciting. And there may be things that you said, that's a good point. And there may be things that go, no, I disagree. Either way, it's okay. But the most important thing is that you're thinking about it. You're processing it. You're using critical thinking to say, well, that's what he said. That triangle thing is good. A lot of good things today. So share this, like it, follow us. Richard, thank you. Always great to be with you. Folks, we'll see you again soon.